want to thank those of you that came from a long distance to be here for the meeting today, but disappointed that we don't have a greater showing. We got 3 items for discussion: a review of the budget process and the approved assessment methodology. Who's going to run with that?
My name is Chelsea Riley. I'm the district manager. Since there's so few of you here, we'll just quickly go around the room and introduce everybody. Go ahead.
Austin Middley, assistant utilities manager.
Laura Leroy, assistant district manager. I forgot who I was today.
You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Ed Tinkle.
Bob Geppert.
Carol Padcock.
Bill Shaw, utilities manager.
I'm Brian Fry, vice president for Brockman.
Daniel Potter, the public works director for GSCD.
For 2 days.
2 more days,
Oh,
yes.
2 more days.
Kim Moscato, Champions Green President, Phase 2.
Welcome. Thank you for coming.
We always talk. We've never met.
Hi, Ed.
Hi, Kim.
So essentially, we've got 3 presentations, one per department, so administration, utilities, and then public works. So with that, I'll turn it over to Laura to handle topic A, which is the review of budget process and approved assessment methodology, which was at the request of the board at one of the meetings to go over this.
So this is a very high level of make sure it all fits. All right. This is intended to just be an overview of the timeline for the budget process, as well as talk a little bit about the changes in the way that the assessments will be assessed this year versus prior years. Very high level, no detail, no calculations. So in April this month, you can't even read that. I'll read it for you. It's horrible. The staff gets the budget templates and it goes out to all the committees for them to do their budgets, and then turns them back in May or towards the end of April. And then we get it to the board, the draft version to the board for their review and discussion. So the first draft of the budget will be going to the board at their meeting next week on the 1st. And then each year, no later than June 15th, which is a state of Florida statutory requirement, we have to approve what we call the high watermark budget. And that gets set, and then we have continued budget discussions after that through June, July, and August, and talk about bringing the budget down. We keep it the same. It cannot go up from whatever gets approved in June. That's why we call it the high watermark. It can only go down. It can stay the same, and it can go down, but it can't go up after June. And then in July, roughly around July, you guys will get your letters in the mail saying your tax bill, you won't have to pay more than X dollars. That's where that X dollars comes from, that high water budget, meaning that it'll be no more than that. And then right now we're scheduled to go to public hearing for the budget to adopt it, which sets the limits, and we know exactly what everyone will be assessed on August 21st. And then we have the budget posted to our website on August 29th.
We might indicate that we're not on a calendar budget.
No, our fiscal year is
we're
October 1st to September 30th. So that's how we operate on a fiscal year, not a calendar.
That's why it's accelerated from what we do in the HOAs and things like that.
Right, and we have to have everything done like 30 days prior to the start of the budget, which is why I get it at the end of August, to make sure it's out before the end of September, which is more than 30 days before the start of the next period. So this is just a little bit about the letter I mentioned that you'll get in July. It should look kind of familiar. You have the, just kind of gives you a little more idea, gives you the date. It'll say like you will not to exceed X. And we have been including the debt assessment portion in there as well. So you'll have one number, which is our operation and maintenance expenses, which is going to be a bigger number. And then the second number is for lake bank projects and then the bonds that we took out. That's debt assessment, so that's not part of our operating expenses. It's on our debt. It's payments we have to make on our debt. So if you add those two together, that's the amount that you should not exceed when you get your tax bill from us.
So that was a change from a couple years ago, because these letters would go out and your property, you'd be say $500, but then the letter, you get your tax bill at the end of the year and it says $600.
Yeah, and I get bombarded with phone calls, and so we had begged and pleaded with our lawyer to let us include that in there, and he said no, and I said fine, I'm going to route all the phone calls to you. And then he said, okay, you can put it in. So
we're not obligated, because we've already gone through with the debt assessment notifications, held the public hearing, etc. But for purposes of being transparent, that's why we've added it in the letter. And it has helped in the
Oh,
past
yeah.
2
And
years.
I think it's a lot better for us to put it out there because it gives you the full total of what you should expect to see on your tax bill instead of a partial. Because it used to have the disclaimer that it didn't include the debt service assessment, but it never told you what the debt service assessment was.
Is it one number for debt service, or is there one for
There's-
bonds,
there's-
one
no.
for administration
There's
building?
there's
one
two
for
numbers
parks?
in the letter. There's one for O&M, and then there's one for debt service. So
And in the debt service, there's
It's all
variety
put together.
variety of components.
Anything that we make payments on is included in debt service.
Okay.
Now, in the budget, you'll be able to tell. If you look at the budget, it'll tell you this much is ponds, this much is bonds. It's broken out in the budget, but in the letter,
not in
it's just a total. So, how do we get our budget numbers? We get input from multiple sources, including our committees, historical data, staff, vendors,
Residents.
residents even, yeah, they help us. Most of it's historical data, and then we look at what we're gonna need to do over the next year. Actually, our capital improvements plan goes out 10 years, and we break it down to 5 for the budget, and then we include the numbers just for the next year when we're looking at our capital needs. And we also do look, once we put all that together, we look at how that impacts the residents. Because I mean, what we might want to do, and then we get it all added up, and we're like, holy cow, that you can't do that. It's too much. And then we start cutting back to make it so that it's not like a total hole in your wallet when you get your tax bill. At least from us.
The board sets the priorities on projects, and so they'll look to staff for input saying, hey, can we milk this item 1 year longer, et cetera.
It comes down to like, do we absolutely positively have to do this? If we wait, is it going to cost the same next year? If we wait, is it going to cost us more? So those are all things that we look at. So it's not like we just go, we need to do this and just put it in the budget and say that's what you're going to pay.
Well, and just like with your own home budgets and even your HOA budgets, there are outside factors that are impacting all of us. Tariffs right now, we don't know what the future holds with any of that stuff. So because we're looking ahead a year, we have to try to project anything that we can. You want to say anything for me, Angela? Thanks.
All right, so then we'll talk a little bit about the assessment methodology. We're required by statute to have the methodology to determine the benefit of services that it provides to all of the property owners in Gateway. It has to be fair, equitable, and defensible. And our district engineer is required by statute to give us a report to assist with our calculations. The last assessment methodology was done in 2020. It was actually approved at my very first board meeting when I started here. So the last 5 budget seasons, we've used that methodology from 2020. With the repeal of the Chapter 6 rule, and there were some other factors, we knew that it was time to redo our methodology and revisit our methodology because it was no longer being fair and equitable. So I think regardless of Chapter 6 happening, we were still going to need to revisit the methodology this year. We did take that to, so here's a little history. September 19th is when Chapter 6 was repealed. And for those of you, I know you're very familiar with what Chapter 6 is, but what Chapter 6 is, that was something that they had done way back in the day that exempted Pelican Preserve from paying into anything Parks and Rec or anything like that over on for the rest of the Gateway. So they didn't pay
Sherman
for
Soccer
roads,
Complex.
They
Sherman.
didn't pay for Parks and Rec. They didn't pay for any of that. They only paid for things inside of Pelican and nothing more.
Laura, you might indicate that we have 4 basic categories or silos.
I'll get there.
Okay.
I'll get there. So I'm just kind of walking through because I know you probably don't know what Chapter 6 is because it doesn't necessarily apply. But now that Chapter 6 is repealed, that exemption is removed and they can be assessed for those things now. So that was on September 19th. We had a big public hearing and that was voted on and was repealed. We did several review sessions with the board to break it down by the different silos. The first, we call them silos, it's like the categories where the things will be assessed. The first silo was the waterway management. We did that on November 7th, and then we looked at roadways on November 21st. Then we looked at Parks and Rec on December 5th. And then finally, we looked at the administrative expenses. And we took that to the board, their first draft of the revised assessment methodology back in January.
Corey, you want to just touch on how we hired an economist?
Oh, yes, we have Russ Wire. He works for Real Estate Econometrics. It's REE, something incorporated. There are very few people in the state of Florida who do assessment methodologies. So he is a professional, third party outside, doesn't work for Gateway. We just pay him as a consultant to do the methodology for us. He also did the methodology back in 2020, so he's very familiar with the district. He's been involved with us for quite a while. He does quite a few other CDDs in the state of Florida, so he's very good at what he does. He and I geek out on numbers all the time. Okay, so we took the rough draft in January to the board. The first draft was presented on February 6th. We had a public hearing February 13th, and then it was posted, sorry, the notice was posted. The final draft was taken to the board on February 20th, and then we had a public hearing about a month ago on March 20th, and it was approved. Not adopted yet, because it's not finalized, but it was approved. So the big things to take away from the changes between the one that we used to calculate the current budget that we're using for this year, we kept 3 silos, which are admin, roadways, waterway management, and then because of Chapter 6, we added a Parks and Rec silo to break that piece out from everything else. Pelican Preserves, the expenses for roadways are calculated based on trip generation. The people in Pelican Preserve do get a break because they're a 55 plus age restricted community. So their trip rate is only 4.31 for a single family home, but everyone else in Gateway has a 9.43. So theirs is not quite half of what everyone else pays because they're age restricted. With this change, with the new assessment methodology, all property owners in Gateway now contribute towards Park and Rec expenses. So Gateway residential properties get a full 100%, however you'd like to look at it. And then all commercial, golf course, and Pelican Preserve, and then Arborwood Phase 3 are assessed at a 0.15. So basically 100% for Gateway and then a 0.15 or 15 for everybody else. We looked at the administrative expenses for this year and took the total of the wages and looked at also the way that the staffing is split up, and about 50% of our team, our employees, are utilities. So they're in our EnerBed, which is our enterprise fund. So we broke it out that 50% of the costs of the stuff would get expensed to the enterprise fund, which does not affect your taxes. That's paid for through the water bill. 33% of it will go to the general fund, and then the remaining 17% gets charged to Pelican Preserve.
Did you say the enterprise is the utilities?
Enterprise is utilities, yeah. So that's paid for by your water bill. That does not get, anytime I mention enterprise fund, that does not affect your taxes. That only affects your water bill. And that's not a change. We've been doing it that way all along, but that doesn't affect your taxes. So currently, the split is 59% to the enterprise fund, so that's going down to 50. It's 27% to the general fund, and that's going up to 33%. And then Pelican Preserve is moving from 14 to 17%.
And you might indicate stormwater.
I'm getting there, that's next.
Okay.
So waterway management expenses are measured based on the impervious area. So the area that contributes to the district's overall stormwater management system. So those expenses are shared by everyone in Gateway. And then finally, I always like to put this in here because people are always like, how do I find out what's going on? How do I contact you? What if I have a question? So if you want to get involved and stay involved, stay informed. Angela, if you don't want to take pictures, it's on the website. You can just download the packet. You can come to our board and committee meetings. The agendas and recorded meetings, our agendas are all posted on our website. All of our recorded meetings, it's not these, but our recorded meetings, we have a YouTube channel, so you can watch them if you're bored and have it playing in the background. Email the board or customer care. There's customer care at gatewaydistrict.org. All the board email addresses are on our website, as are staff's. You can follow us on Facebook, we're on Instagram, I think we're on LinkedIn. Are we on X too? I think, no, I'm not sure, I don't remember. Always check our website. And then we do use Constant Contact, where we send out emails for things that are going on. You can sign up for that on our website. If you go to our page, there's a spot that says like sign up to get more information. You just click in there. You can pick it for all the communities in here. Like if you want to know what's going on in Hampton Green or in Hampton Park, what we're doing there, you can sign up and get the information that goes to them for projects that are going on behalf of the district. So you can get as much or as little information as you would like from that. And this is just kind of what I just talked about. He put a QR code on here for you. So you can stay up to date by going to our website. If there's something that you need to submit a ticket for, like if there's something that's broken or that you'd like to get done on our page, there's a request for action button, which will take you to a form that you can fill out, and we'll get that taken care of. And follow us on Facebook or on YouTube.
So perfect timing, Randy. This is Randy Paniagua, our contracts manager, also our public information officer. So he is the mind and fingers behind all the communications that go out from the district.
He makes our words look pretty.
Yes, he does a very good job. So putting the names with faces in case you get bombarded by Randy.
We were talking about constant contact.
Oh, okay, perfect, yes. And community emails.
Yep. And I said, even if you live in Pelican, you want to know what we're doing over in Hampton Park, you can sign up for their email too. So.
Does anybody have any questions? I know that was a lot and condensed.
And maybe think of anything while we're going through the process for the budget. That is my primary responsibility, so feel free to email me, call over there, whatever, if you have questions about anything specific with the budget. I pretty much live, breathe, and dream numbers from now until August. So. All right, thank you.
More questions? Next,
Meter box replacement?
meter box. Who's taking it?
Rock, paper, scissors.
I'll do this.
This just pertains to the people that are on our utility, water, and irrigation. So the majority of Pelican Reserve is under the city of Fort Myers. So they're not included in this, but Prado is included. Prado, Pistoia, part of Matarita.
Matarita too.
Was your box replaced?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, I said we started over there. So.
It's right.
All right. Perfect.
Okay, so,
What's Stepper some song? Takes time.
We know it's
This weekend.
coming. Yeah,
This
it's
weekend.
coming.
Did we have any problems?
no, I would actually be complimentary. It was a painless project.
Okay.
That word doesn't go very often around here. It's always
So we didn't have too
painful.
many tree roots or anything that you found over there?
Not there.
Well, we had a good public meeting. Everybody knew it was coming. It was great communication on this project.
Yep.
It's been well executed.
It was well executed. It was minimal disruption, and we're very happy that we got an excuse to turn the water underwater our ground. Because you put sod in it,
You're welcome.
and we didn't want to let it die.
So we're currently, as part of our meter replacement project, working on replacing all of our meter boxes first, so we have better mounting solution for whatever new meters we decide to get. So we're working in conjunction with Arcadis as our engineering consultant, and then Met Tower Environmental is our primary contractor, and Denko Construction is the subcontractor of Met Towers. They haven't started working out here yet, but they will eventually once the project gets into more like a full swing. We're kind of in a real initial phase at the moment. They're still trying to figure some stuff out regarding workflow. Once that all gets straightened out, they're going to bring in Denko and things will start going a lot faster. So, like I said, we're trying to replace all the meter boxes and mounting hardware prior to replacing the meters, because most of the current boxes in our system you've probably seen out like your front yard. You might have like a cast iron lid. That's what they installed back then, and the main issue is that that's really not compatible with a lot of modern telecommunication technologies. The metal's got very poor RF permeability, so it interferes with communication. So in order to, that in the box itself is kind of flimsy. If you've ever taken it apart, you kind of see the picture on the right there. The actual body of the box itself is this real thin, like flimsy PVC material. So if you have landscapers come in and mow your lawn, those mowers they use weigh as much as a vehicle does, so those things don't fare too well. So in order to address both those issues, we've elected to replace them with a heavier polymer meter box, which is traffic rated. You can see top left is a picture of what the finished installs look like on the inside. You can see the whole assembly of it is just a lot heavier than the original box. And then a side-by-side comparison of the two of them. And then this is the first stage in our meter replacement program. And just more illustration of why we're replacing them. Run into some pretty funny stuff out there, like Devonshire.
Tree roots?
Yeah. But in Devonshire, on the left, you can see all the boxes. They were real, like, they call them like contractor grade single meter boxes, but they installed them over the older, like, cast iron boxes, which is not the proper way to do things, but that's what was done. So all those got torn out during the pilot phase of the box replacement, and then, like Ed said, tree roots on the right. That box, you can kind of see it's not even really elongated, it's just like crushed in.
It's been crushed.
Did we go over why we're doing this?
So,
Okay.
and then just some pictures of what the boxes we're going to be replacing. The existing boxes with look like. Those two.
What one's the purple?
Because I was gonna say, how much each you want to score?
Don't you tell her, that's cheating. Do you guys know what the purple one is?
Reclaimed water?
Reclaimed water, irrigation, and the black? Drinking potable water.
I always think purple means poo-poo, that's why I remember it.
They're colored like that because it's required under regulations established.
And what color is it?
Specifically Pantone Purple
Yes.
522C.
He dreams that.
When you have them both in the same pit as we have had over the last 20 years, and there's a purple meter for the irrigation, the reuse, and the other one is black. When the guys that come in that are hooking up the houses, if they do this,
Oh.
Yeah.
and that has happened.
Oh.
Yeah.
That has happened.
I get really, really unhappy.
Austin as our regulatory reporting gentleman who gets to send out all of our fancy reports off to the regulatory agencies. So sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Now I get to have discussions with DEP when stuff like that happens.
Yes.
It's not fun. So those are just some more pictures. The other boxes that we're using. The one on the left, that's what we're using for like our double meter set. It's like a lot of the individually metered residences, they're individually metered for both irrigation and potable. So we installed the larger box to accommodate both of those meters. The two on the right, purple for reclaimed water, black is for potable. Predominantly, the black ones are being installed in the master irrigation communities, like in Prado and Pistoia. We installed the smaller black meter boxes because there's really no point in having that huge, circular thing in your yard.
Because we don't have individual irrigation water.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas, like in Matarita, they're installing the larger boxes because those are individually metered for both potable water and reclaimed water. And as far as the replacement process goes, Randy's very good about making sure the communication gets sent out prior to the actual installation taking place. We've also been holding town hall meetings prior to the contractors moving in to start the replacement work. We've already done the town halls for Pelican Reserve, and then also Arborwood Phase 3 is up next, and that was held in early April. So this didn't really come into play much for anything in Pelican Reserve, and it won't come into play for anything in Arborwood because everything there was so new. We just deemed it wasn't necessary to replace any of the service brass. So none of the lines there really got disconnected unless something got hit, which did happen a couple times. It's bound to happen. You're digging around the ground, eventually someone's going to get careless and hit something. But for most of Gateway, we are going to be having to replace the service brass along with the box. And that's going to require us to disconnect the customer service while we're replacing that hardware. Typically, they last around 1 hour. That's about how long it takes the contractor to get the assembly tied in on both our side and the customer side. And then for customers who may have special requirements, like we had one resident out in Pareto who has in-home dialysis. If any residents in your communities have special requirements like that, they can be relayed to us and the contractor, and we'll make sure to coordinate that more closely, just to ensure people's health and safety is protected. Once the materials are replaced, the contractors are instructed to flush the line and verify that there aren't any cross connections prior to placing the line in service. And then one hot button issue we've run into is the new utility rules we've adopted enable Gateway staff, I believe it's designates, to remove landscaping features if they obstruct access to the box. The contractor is doing a very good job of keeping that to a minimum, but decisions on whether that removal occurs are made on a case-by-case basis.
So that, we have, just like FPL has the right to come in and access their stuff, we have the right to come in and access our meter. This 3-foot buffer is new. The board just adopted it a couple months ago, but if we're investing millions of dollars into new equipment, new material, we don't want it to be encumbered by agave plants or your calusas or whatever landscaping. Pick bougainvillea.
Bougainvillea, yeah.
Absolute favorite.
Thorny
Yes,
bougainvillea.
rose bushes, you name it. So, as of right now, Pelican, again, we intentionally started in Pelican Preserve because it's a newer community. It hasn't had the 25 plus years of growth that Gateway Greens oak trees have had. So, in order to give the contractor the ability to kind of get their feet wet and get their processes ironed out, that's why they started there. But this 3-foot buffer moving forward in the future, even beyond the contract, if a bush encompasses a meter box, you will get a courtesy notice. Our meter staff will take note of it. You will get a courtesy notice saying, hey, this has been identified, please transplant it, remove it, etc. But we will slowly start to enforce that. Probably more so once we get here on the Greater Gateway side, just because of some of the mature landscaping in some of these communities. But it's not just, we don't like plants, we don't like landscaping. This is truly for the safety of our employees. And if they're coming out here at 2 in the morning because you had a water main break and they have to come turn the water off, I can't have them diving into a shrub or into a bush. So it truly is a safety issue.
Yeah, a lot of the communities that started originally in Gateway, like Gateway Greens, especially on the single-family homes, you would have the water and the irrigation side by side on 2 lots. And they put that on the side. The next lot would be the sewer. Then the next water irrigation, next lot sewer. Where do they put the oak trees? Right next to where the 2 water connections are at. That's how they built Gateway. And so if you go out and you'll look, if you see an oak tree, you can bet that there's a meter on both sides of it. And around that, you'll find a root. And that's just what we've been running into, is a nightmare. Some of them, like Austin was saying, is going to necessitate separating out the meters and making it a little bit further apart to be able to get it in without fighting. Up on Mahogany Run North, we were fighting oak roots this big. That big, and when they get that big, they just wrap around that box like you showed a while ago, and it's unbelievable. They'll take those 24-inch diameter plastic, hard plastic, and just squeeze it.
Like a boa.
Just like a boa. Yeah. And then when you get down to the smaller diameter, especially irrigation lines, it'll just take that and just squeeze it down to where no water will go through at all. So we're trying to get them to the point to where no more landscaping around water and irrigation lines. So for people on the single family side, it's going to be Going to be different. Going to be different.
We have had the oak tree roots physically break the brass components of the meter system.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how strong they are. It is. Yeah.
So that's basically just a graphic showing how the project is being broken up. The project is being conducted in 2 main phases, and then it was further broken down into separate sub-phases. Mostly I did that to try to get a projection for a timetable to complete it. So as far as progress, Pistoia and Prado
Oh, yeah, we go back, sorry.
are done. Next is going to be, after Matarita's completed, it's going to be Arborwood, and then that'll be all phase 1A wrapped up. And then off to Stony Brook. Stony Brook Villages and the single.
One silly question is, when do we get rid of the don't strike here signs? Those, whatever those signs are that you had.
Federal labor law.
They're moving with the project, so they're a requirement of our funding source.
Yeah, referring to like the Davis Bacon and the,
Yeah.
those will be going away once the contractor moves out of the area.
We have federal funding that we're getting for that,
That's,
so.
we understand.
Now, this is just the box. And in the future, we're going to put in new
They'll come
hardware.
back when they come to replace the meters, the signs will come back too.
So before we move on, I just want to kind of explain a couple things. So most municipalities, they will pick a meter manufacturer and just run with it, right? They'll pick one off the shelf.
Like we did 10 years ago.
We did 10 plus years ago. And so what we're doing different than what most municipalities do is we have established a pilot project. And so we've chosen 3 meter companies. We're going to test them, have them put 100 meters?
100.
100 meters each in the ground for 9 months, because we've got an airport south of us. We've got an FPL easement running transmission lines right through the middle of Gateway. We're so spread out. We want to test and
Walls.
see. Walls, clickers, gates, HOA, I mean, you name it, everything. So we wanted to see it in real life, like which of these meter companies works before we
And we want to
invest.
go through rainy season where things are underwater, that can cause problems too. So we wanted to make sure we gave a good full cycle test.
Yeah, see, we don't have meter readers. Everything's electronic. And we have a lot of things that interfere with that. And this time we want to make sure that we know which ones can handle it and which ones can't.
So to give you a sense of kind of why we are where we are, we have 8,500 meters, 8,000 meters or so, ish.
Yeah.
Our 3 meter readers are reading a quarter of our system, manually reading a quarter of our system. 30%, okay, it's gone up since last I know, which is not good. The meters that we have in place are out of date. They're antiquated. We've had issues. I'll leave it at that. And so that's what prompted us and this board taking the action of, hey, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. We can't fit 2 meters in a circle box, so we need to do the boxes. Well, if we're doing the boxes, let's look at the brass. And we want to do it right so that way we don't ever have to touch this ever again, right? At least the boxes and the brass components, because that stuff should last
20, 30 years.
Yeah. So
10 years ago, when the project was done, we didn't address the issue of the meter settings or anything. We just a meter in, meter out. That's all we did.
And so we have full-time inspection services from the engineering firm, that they have somebody out there anytime that the contractor's putting a shovel in ground, they're babysitting them, they're watching them, they're our eyes. We only have 34 employees total in the whole district. So this is a huge project, massive project. There have been many challenges. The board has directed staff to pursue state revolving fund loan, which is a low interest loan that you pay back over 20 years. So that is how we have obtained the funding to do this $13 million project. You'll notice too, again, these are all many challenges hurdles that we've hit as part of this project. We have 2 phases. We have 2 phases because when we bid this out, did we bid out twice? I think we
Yes.
did. Did we bid out twice? We bid out
Yes.
twice. The first time we bid it, we didn't have any bidders. And the problem is we're too small for the big fish, but too big for the little fish. And so there were bonding issues with contractors and not being able to bond a $13 million contract, or $5 million, you name it, pick a number. So what we did was Manoli, Austin, I like to call him Manoli, Austin put together this beautiful map, and we basically organized the district into 2 phases. And so we've authorized, the board has approved the entire contract, but we've only issued the notice to proceed for phase 1. The contractor has provided bonding for phase 1. Once they complete that, we'll issue the notice to proceed for phase 2. We'll get the bond, etc. So they're moving, a little slow, but they're moving. While this pilot meters go into the ground, we're giving this contractor 9 months to get ahead and get all these boxes in and all of the brass in. So that way, when these meter companies come, old, new, they can literally pull out and just slap in new. And mindless, like you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do this. So that, Ed, you could probably shed some light on that, but that was one of the issues in the past was the oversight of these meter companies. They normally sub out the underground work, the labor. So we're like, well, let's skip the middleman and let's contract it and do it ourselves. So that's kind of why we are doing this.
We learned a lot of lessons from the last time that the meters were replaced, and we're making sure we don't make the same mistakes this time.
Yes. All right. Didn't even take a PowerPoint.
So that's from the first day the contractor was on site. There, you kind of see when they get ready to go through and replace boxes along the street, they'll be doing advanced staging of new boxes. So that'll be another indicator that in the next week or 2 they'll be by and they'll start swapping out.
Is this
boxes.
Prado?
That's
Or
Pistoia.
Pistoia?
Yeah.
It's not cooperating.
And then that's kind of what their whole assembly.
Looks a lot like a funeral to me.
Of the old meter boxes.
It is.
It is for the old meter
Good job,
boxes,
the old
yeah.
meter box.
So that's kind of like what they have a whole assembly line process for how they're conducting these. Just a whole train of them moving down one side of the street. And then what the finished product will look
Sorry.
like. Yeah, just the finished product. So the whole landscaping issue we kind of touched on earlier. Like to have a 3-foot clear zone around the perimeter of the box, just because Joe said it's kind of a safety issue if somebody comes out there in the middle of the night. And then
Or if they cover them with mulch and we can't find them.
yeah, well these ones actually have like little steel chunks of rebar in them, so you can actually locate a metal detector. Have to get a metal detector first though.
Just don't put anything around them, you don't have to worry about it.
There's that.
So if we haven't come to your community yet, you've got time to move your favorite shrub that's around the meter box to transplant that. You've got some time. Otherwise, if it's in the way, the contractor's removing it.
Next.
And then just what our current, project progress looks like. We're anticipating to be done with our work in Pelican Reserve in early May. Once they get done in Matarita, they've got a couple common area meter boxes and the meter box at Cool and Casella to do. And then after that, they're off to Arborwood. And they're anticipating that will be done by mid-May. And after that, it's on to Stony Brook.
We do have a town hall set up for Stony Brook. May 1st.
Next meeting.
So thank you for allowing us to host it in your community and also inviting the villages over. We do anticipate the contractor to be there mid-May. And so again, this PowerPoint, a condensed version of it is really what we give at the town hall. And then they're obviously to answer any questions that residents may have. I know a big concern that a lot of folks have had is who's responsible for the watering of it. That would be the property owner, because there's no other way other than the contractor trucking a big water truck and not irrigating it. But to his point earlier, that gives you the opportunity to water your lawn for up to 30 days if needed to help establish that new sod.
I haven't heard anything from Pelican Reserve. Is everything going pretty smooth over there?
Going great,
Great.
going great.
So Chelsea, will that May 1st town hall, will that be on your website where all the other agenda meetings are? Will it be
Been a
labeled
no-brainer.
somewhere
No,
else?
we didn't, just because it's really only
Well, we
for
had good
that
So
communication.
there'll be
community.
a direct communication.
Yes.
I just.
Yeah, Randy sent it through, or have you
You
sent
should
it?
be getting it tomorrow.
Well, I know that because I'm
Yes.
on the board, but I want the community to know.
Yes.
Okay.
Austin, how many homes were affected in Pelican? 800, 900?
So that's going to be.
Isn't that many?
I believe it was
Three.
about
I don't think it's that much.
550 to 600.
Well, it's 450 in Prado alone.
411.
411, okay, and then
Plus another 100.
whatever you have in Matarita
Pistoia.
too, and Pistoia is part of
Pistoia is part of Prado.
Prado.
Okay, well,
From an HOA point.
Then you're probably around 650 there.
Yeah. And Narberwood's what, 200, 150?
144.
Yeah, so they're pretty small.
150 or something, right?
They've been
143.
averaging, depending on, the heat is a huge component, factor right now, but they've been averaging between
20,
about 20 a day. So they're rolling, but they haven't, that's just the box, it's not the grass. Once the grass becomes an element of it, it may slow them down a little bit, but the sod, and that's one thing, again, learning this first, month or two, they're waiting because they can just order a whole semi of sod, and it's gonna come at the end of the month, and they're gonna sod it all at one time.
Right now, you don't want to be putting down much sod.
I know. Unfortunately.
Well, but we're
that's the
sprinkling.
case.
It's not watering very much.
We are watering.
Yeah.
We are watering.
And Chelsea, how many were done on the first initial set down for Stony Brook? Now this is the phase where they're going in, are they doing like 75 or all the thing?
I believe in Stony Brook they're placed, I want to say it's 24 or
Okay,
27.
I can't remember that number.
It was either.
The test
can't
run.
remember exactly
Yeah.
which.
Okay, and then the number for this phase is going to be how many?
So,
The whole thing, okay.
everybody.
Everyone's getting a
Just want to
box.
make sure there's not phase 3, 4, 5.
No,
Everyone's getting a box, and some people are getting test meters.
very few projects touch every single property in the district, and this is one, and this is why we have to do it right, we have to communicate right. Feedback from property owners, from residents, good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter, is only helping us because we got a lot more boxes to do. Is there anything else on this slide?
No.
Okay.
As far as points of contact for the district, if there's any issues with anything or any additional questions, there's always our customer service line, which is given there. And then there's Bill and
Raise your hand, Bill. That's Bill. Hi, Bill.
that's our phone numbers and email addresses if anybody has any additional questions or concerns. And we also have C-Click Fix, which is our
I mentioned that before too. Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions about this meter project?
Should take about 2 years all in, that time we're all done, tested, swapped out. So
So when do you expect the actual meters to come in?
So we're looking at installing the pilot meters next month, right? Or June.
9 months total.
Probably April or May 2026 is when the installation going to start.
whenever we'll decide on with the new meters.
And the new meters will start at Pelican, just like we did the boxes.
Just repeat and follow the same schedule back out.
Town halls, communication, the whole shebang.
And a lot of people always want to know, it's like, okay, it doesn't matter if it's Stony Brook or who. They always want to know, how much is this phase costing? How much we're paying over 5 years, 10 years? I know that's been brought up at different meetings. Are those calculations being given out to the homeowners yet?
Because it's an SRF loan, it's a reimbursement loan, so we're paying for the stuff up front and then we ask to be reimbursed. So it's sort of like a line of credit. We're approved for the full amount of the project, but we only have to pay for the money that we receive. So like right now, I think I just put in a request for $2 million. Right now we owe nothing because we haven't taken any dollars. So as soon as I get that first reimbursement, then we'll have a $2 million debt. And then as we get more, it's like a line of credit. So the more we borrow, the higher the payments will be. But we'll be doing those calculations as part of the budget because there'll be a separate thing set up for that. So we'll have a better grasp on what the debts. Well, actually, it'll be part of it's in the water bill. So it's part of the water bill.
I know
Yeah,
that.
but we need to calculate what it's going to be.
It's gonna show
because-
up on the water bill, not on their tax.
So
you won't see it actually on the water bill. It's your rates are covering it. But when we do the budget process, the debt service for that doesn't get calculated.
So the total project that we were approved for was about $13 million, right?
Yeah, it's right around
13
13.
million. So that's our black credit. Because when we applied for that, we had to show how we were going to pay it back. And so we hired Raftellus to come and do a rate study. And so we've incorporated that debt service into the rates. So not only is the county hitting us with an 8% increase on the rates every year, but we have to account for our own projects. And so that's why you're seeing increases in your water bill specifically this year and probably for the next 3 to 5 years for sure.
Well, that type of information, like you're explaining it in detail, is that somewhere to be explained to the homeowners? Because they always want to know, why is my water bill going up? Or why is this on my taxes? I love exactly how you explained it, and I'd like to share that. Is it somewhere?
We don't have it explicitly written out like that. I know we do have a page identified for this project, but that type of feedback is great. We can add that to an FAQ on the website
Because
for
people
sure.
are saying, oh, the water's going up, and oh, we can't turn on the water. And I'm thinking, well, but they say they want the meters, they know they need them, but they're always, it's always about the dollar. Where's it costing me here? Where's it costing me there?
Understood.
Are we already putting a small assessment?
Yes.
So that we're collecting money before we've done anything?
Yes.
That started last
Okay.
year, right?
Because we anticipated the amount of the full debt when we did the rate study, so we made sure that we were collecting enough each year, anticipating year 1 we would owe this much, year 2 we would owe this much,
So rather than slap with a huge fine, we parceled it out a little bit with a huge bill and increase.
Right.
The county's 8% surcharge every month isn't helping the
No, no.
situation.
No. And that's for 5 years. So
Yeah,
we're
for 5
going
years.
into year 2 now. July will be the start of the second year.
Any other questions for this project? Okay. And last but not least, Mr. Potter, your last President's Council meeting.
Well, the rest of the staff would position themselves where they weren't sitting behind everybody who briefed through also.
Strategic.
Just to reintroduce myself, because I know somebody came back in that was new when we did our first round of introductions. Daniel Potter, the public works director for the district.
For 2 days.
For 2 more days, 2 more very strenuous long days, I'm sure. Today I'm going to go over some just hurricane prep as we roll into season here. I know it's the most dry topic you could probably talk about, so I'm going to do it in no less than like 135 slides. No, I'm kidding. So hurricane season is upon us. Hurricane season starts June and extends through November. So what's that mean now? If anybody's from Florida, you probably don't need this, but there's probably a lot of residents that are across the board that are coming in that may not have ever had a hurricane season to their name. So it might be good information to push out to your residents if you care to. It's like this. So predicted for this hurricane season, NOAA is predicting just a little bit less storms across the board, or a little less hurricanes, still a whole lot of storms than last year. So last year, the number of hurricanes that formed during the Atlantic hurricane season was above average. There were 18 named storms that formed during the season to become 11 hurricanes, with 5 of those major hurricanes. 5 hurricanes at a category 3 or higher. That's a major category.
I need everybody to knock on wood right now.
Yeah, no projects. So this year is predicting to have 13 to 18 named storms over last year, and then 7 to 10 of those strengthening into hurricane level categories. And people ask, what categories are what? So I went and I pulled up the categories here for people to be able to see what those wind strengths are. If you're a true Floridian, you probably don't start even really looking at something until it comes to about a Cat 3. Cat 1, Cat 2, tropical storms, just heavy rains, prepping for a lot of downfall and rainfall. Winds don't really become an issue until you start hitting that 111 to 130 range and upward. So that's the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale, and just for people that want to know what those winds go for. I know that most cities and counties shut down roadways for emergency events when the winds gust at above 35 miles per hour. So when we have a storm, we do everything we can prepping up to the storm to batten down the hatches, and then we won't put our staff back out there into the field until those winds go down below 35 miles per hour. So it's like, just to check the box, make sure you go back through with your insurance companies, make sure you're covered, make sure you have your photos of your pre-storm and your post-storm, and document, so that you can be first in line when you need a new roof, especially when everybody needs a new roof. And then having all that documentation will do nothing but help you. Storm prep, like I said, take your pictures, both interior and exterior. Everybody always takes the exterior and doesn't think about the inside. Flood damage is probably one of the higher risks beyond the wind damage. So you definitely want to make sure you get the inside, especially if you just renovated inside. And maybe what you had on your insurance before was not covered after you put a whole bunch of money into it. Make sure you bring in your lawn furniture, any outdoor items, tie down anything that can become an airborne projectile. You don't want any trash cans becoming, 110 mile per hour saucer that'll take out a window or damage something or possibly hurt somebody. And then anywhere that water or wind can enter into the building, make sure you batten down that hatch. If you've got the hurricane shutters, make sure you get them up. Pretty common sense for all of us that have done hurricanes.
I just want to touch on this real quick. Maybe not so much here because a lot of you are in HOAs, but talk to your neighbor. Ask your neighbor if they need help. We have a lot of senior citizens here that maybe living alone or need assistance. And I know last time we had a hurricane, I saw on the community Facebook page there was a lot of requests asking for help last minute. And young kids are great to have and can run around and help, but put a plan in place for that, especially with your shutters if you're scrambling last minute. Talk to your neighbors, befriend.
To that end, Pelican Reserve has a specific PPERT committee. In every street, our presidents know who is alone, isolated in the house, and people are assigned to check on them, pre-storm and post-storm. So yeah, if you get community involvement, it's a great thing for this body, the presidents, to lead that up.
That's a great example.
Absolutely. Slide, please. You would think, common knowledge with generators, when you get into that phase where you need a generator, not to run it in a place that's not ventilated, or make sure that those exhausts are not feeding back into your garage and then possibly into your house. Especially if you're running an air conditioner, like a standalone air conditioning unit, don't kick that thing back into the house. You don't want to get anybody poisoned. Slide. Storm prep. So me, the public works director, care about all the extra debris going into the stormwater system, because if we can keep the stormwater system basically free of any debris, then I can keep the water flowing out of the area and into where it needs to be versus into your homes. So in here, just the tree pruning and make sure your trash is picked up, anything that can become lodged into the storm system, to the valley gutters, into the drain system, anything that would back that whole system up that would potentially create a whole lot of flooding in your area. There are a lot of neighborhoods here that I've learned over the past 2 years that just inherently have flooding issues. So to the best of your ability, make sure that those things are not obstructed. Slide. You can go on any website, you can go Google, hey Google, what is the checklist of things that I should have, and just QA/QC your go bag, make sure you've got your batteries, your flashlights, extra clothes, things that if you needed to evacuate important documents, birth certificates, things like that. I pulled one down and it's very tiny, you can't really see it there. The one that I'll get into it a little bit here is that everybody always forgets about. They get their plan, they figure out what zone they're in, they figure out where they can evacuate to, and they figure out, okay, all the ducks in a row, and then they forget, hey, I've got animals and I can't take it to that shelter. So make sure that you think ahead if you've got some dogs that can't go into a shelter, to have a evac plan for them as well.
Raise your hand if you have a grab and go bag.
Say it again.
A grab and go bag. Do you have a grab and go bag?
Yeah.
I usually have everything in this.
This is the area where people evacuate to, but you never know. There's been crazy tornadoes happening all over the country recently, so I strongly encourage you to have a grab and go bag.
We don't have storm surge. That's the big thing.
Correct.
That's the big thing.
First aid kit, whether you got it in your vehicle, make sure your vehicles are gas, make sure your generators have gas, make sure you got all those pre-checklist items. quick Google search will give you a good starting point there, especially for people that are new. If you're used to snow, it's a whole different checklist. So, slide. Leading into what I was just talking about, emergency shelters. Here to Gateway, we've got 2 nearest shelters located right there in the gold boxes at Gateway High School and the Treeline Elementary School. There are some special needs accommodations. I put a link down there and a phone number. And also at the same time, remember about your animals. You don't want to leave any animals behind. I've had to do cleanup behind 3 or 4 major, I was here for Charlie, I've been here for Ian, some major cleanup efforts. And there's nothing sadder than when you run across things that were just cut loose because they weren't thought about, whether it be horses, dogs, cats, you name it. All right, slide. Know your zones. So green and purple, that's within our evacuation zones. And then the yellow there outlined, that is your flood zone. So that's for the whole district. Slide. So what do we do in preparation for the storms? Utilities, Public Works, our Parks and Rec, and our administration all kind of work together internally. We also work with external organizations, FEMA, the county, the city of Fort Myers. We work with Waste Management for post-storm pickup, and there's a lot of inspections that go on prior. So we're taking pictures of our assets. We're trying to catalog all of our stuff to make sure it's good, in working order, and that if any damage does occur, that we've got the pictures to back it up, even for our own insurance claims.
Yeah, if you're in a gated community, make sure you've signed off on that
Right.
release.
Right of entry form.
Yeah, right of entry, because if you don't have that, you're dead.
Yeah, so if you're within Pelican, the city of Fort Myers has a right of entry form. And then if you're in the Greater Gateway, the county has a right of entry form. They require that. I know the county's is an online digital form that you guys can fill out. I have to follow back up with the city of Fort Myers, but normally they reach out right before hurricane season and said, hey, we need this for all your stuff. Fortunately for Pelican, we sign it because we own the roads, the district does, so you're covered in that sense. But for all of the other HOAs, I know, Ed, you've signed it for Gateway Greens in the past, et cetera. So.
Slide. So we do, like I said, infrastructure inspections, debris management that we can, to the best of our ability with a limited amount of time. We like to start prepping well out in advance. So as soon as we know something's a tropical storm with the potential of upgrading and it's coming at us, we start going through our SOPs and doing inspections, cataloging things across the board. Start looking at the flood control. This year, I think we've exercised the weirs more than we've ever in years past, so we understand how quickly we can get those waters down to build up some additional capacity in our system. So instead of us being, at the brink holding water because we've had a heavy rainfall for the summer, we can get those waters down and create some more capacity for when the big storms come along and surge hits us.
Let me pause, because that decision is not an arbitrary decision.
No.
That is a telephone call or Teams call or Zoom, whatever it may be. That is with the city of Fort Myers, Lee County, the Port Authority, South Florida Water Management District, us,
Corps of Engineers.
the county, everybody, because all of our water goes to the 6 Mile Cypress Slough, and if they don't have any capacity, all that ends up going down to the 10 Mile Canal. If they don't have capacity and realize that we're emptying a large volume of water, we'll have bigger issues. So I think, Laura, the first...
Ian was the first time we were able to take the weirs down since Charlie came through. Was it 2012?
Yeah.
12.
Charlie was
Charlie.
2008.
5?
Irma was
4. Charlie was 04.
Yeah, Irma was the first one that affected
When we
Pelican.
Yes.
had Ian in 2022, that was the first time since Charlie that we were allowed to open the weirs.
So that was...
Well, we didn't have weirs too. I mean,
We did.
they're relatively
We
new
did.
now.
They wouldn't let us open them
Yeah.
until
So
then,
we can internally adjust our internal weirs where we're keeping the water within our system, but if we touch that weir that's on the other side of 75 that goes to the slough and lower it, we have to have the blessing of all of those regulatory agencies. So we have exercised internal weirs. We were fortunate, the last big storm that we had, we got all of that rain so quickly. We were fortunate the levels were as low as they were, but I can't emphasize enough, because people get on Facebook and keyboard warriors, lower the weirs. Well, I can't just snap my fingers as much as I'd love to make that happen.
But the construction of the internal weirs has been a big plus for
Yeah.
us. And the last hurricane was more of a wind tunnel.
Yeah.
than a water event.
The district invested, I think, over $1 million in, we did 2 in Pelican, 3, I think we did
3 in Pelican.
We did $1 million in adjustable weirs, that way we could help alleviate any stormwater flooding for the future. We know in Irma there was flooding in Pelican and Stony Brook, so we've learned our lessons and have adjusted accordingly. And we're still evaluating that in the future. I know Stony Brook still has some issues.
Well, the key is the county is spending the money to get the 10-mile canal
Yeah.
cleaned out, because all the water gets to that ultimately before it goes into
that's the
Sparrow
Corridor
Bay.
bottle.
So you got to get the water out, down, make the channel bigger down there, and that's helped us a lot. And then just being cognizant of the fact that a storm is coming, we can start letting that water level go down so that we don't dump it on Pelican Reserve from here and then dump it on somebody else downstream from 6 Mile Canal. So everything's got to work together. But waiting till the last minute, we pretty well know how fast the water goes down when we open those weirs, either half or all the way. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a couple of days to really have a benefit and get the water level down about a foot. That gives us a lot of storage when we get it down a foot, but you don't do it overnight.
So all that to be said, that we've actually worked through the process and what that workflow looks like, where in years past it was kind of like, what do we do when we're in the thick of it? Now we've got that worked out to where it's like step 1, contact this person, this person, this person. We work it as a big email string. They're used to us coming to them and asking about exercising the weirs now. It's become a more fluid workflow versus before. It was like, oh, well, there's been so much turnover, who does what, who do we contact? And just to make it happen, it's much more streamlined now. We can just about do it in about a 24-hour to 48-hour period. And after we've exercised the weirs, we know that any 24 to 48-hour period, once they say go and open them up, if I open all those weirs up to 100%, then I can get the whole system down 2 to 3 foot in 48 hours. So it's good for prep for the storms. Just like that. Some more just basic common sense here. The emergency road clearing. Like I said earlier, we wouldn't put staff on the road until roads are safe to travel and traverse. The flood management, monitoring. I've got some items in here to show how people can communicate with us, especially during storms or pre and post storms if there's any issues, while roads are still safe to travel. And I'll get to that in a minute. So damage assessments across the board. Some more trash cans. Except sure you're checking your storm drains and just secure any of your household goods across the board that may, again, become either clogged in the storm drain or become flying debris. It's like post-storm stuff for debris removal. The district works with Lee County and the city of Fort Myers to inform the community about debris schedule pickups. We typically have in the past created collection areas so that we can just consolidate, have them come in and do massive pickups at one go versus trying to go down each and every individual street, just to make it more streamlined. We are on their priority list somewhere. We never know exactly where it's going to be. It's just based off of how bad the storm hit and where. But eventually they get to us and they try their best to get to us as fast as possible. So slide. Do not drive in the flooded roadways. It's a good way to lose a car. Insurance won't cover you if you do that most times I've heard about. So stay off the roadways, clearly stay off the sidewalks. When there's washouts, it creates mud, makes things slippery, slip, trip, fall hazards across the board. Careful of power lines. If there's anything that you think's on the ground, don't risk it, especially with our FPL lines around here. There is a lot of juice going through those lines. You don't need a whole lot to kill a person. So. And avoid roadways to allow the emergency vehicles to come through. So if you're going to ride out a storm, make sure that you've got all your supplies in hand and that you're not going to obstruct anybody else that really needs emergency care. Slide.
Is anybody signed up for Code Red? Are you
We
signed
used
up?
to promote that, we need to start promoting it again.
Or do you know what Code Red is? Do you know what Code Red is?
Next slide's got it on.
Oh,
Put it on
sorry.
the water bill, right? Still on the bottom of the water bill?
On the website too.
Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah.
I know.
She does it to me too, it's alright.
It's okay. For 2 more days.
For 2 more days.
C-Click Fix is a relatively new item for the entire district. It is our
You
way.
all talked about it, or
I
you did
know.
one slide?
Now I get to go into a little bit more detail. I gave it one slide. That's how much effort I gave it. I know Chelsea wants me to do more, but we're trying to roll it out little by little so that the residents understand how to communicate with the district in a way that goes into our system of record for all things assets. So for every one of the SeeClickFix items that go in from our main webpage, you'll see that SeeClickFix emblem on our main page. It's dead center right at the very top as soon as you click on our page. And that'll take you to what used to be our request for assistance and now our SeeClickFix side of the house where you can put in whatever the issue is that may pertain to a district asset. If it's a roadway, if it's a sign, if it's utilities, if it's public works, that's the place you want to go and put in your ticket. It allows you to put in a picture and it helps us really play the game of like, where's Waldo? Because I've had a lot of phone calls that there's a broken irrigation line somewhere on Gateway Boulevard. Cool, Gateway Boulevard's a really big place for me to drive up and down. Can you give me a location, maybe drop a pin? There's that option in there, and then it allows you to just give a brief description on it. And it allows us to come back full circle after we either work it internally or go out to a contractor to fix it, come back and say, hey, this was done and it's been completed. Thank you for the feedback. So what it is, I put it up there because a lot of people don't know what SeeClickFix is, and it's really just a issue reporting platform that allows people to report non-emergency neighborhood issues. Keyword there, non-emergency. Non-emergency.
We changed that word,
Yeah.
the words on that in red,
Yeah.
so that it stands out.
So non-emergency neighborhood issues and gateway. So looking at the assets across the board that belong to the district is honestly there's a lot of intermingling about who owns what. So if you think it belongs to Gateway, go ahead and submit the ticket. If it doesn't belong to us, we'll tell you, and we'll probably redirect you to where you need to go in order to submit that ticket. If it's the city, the county, wherever that may be.
So if somebody doesn't know about this, then they standardly go to the customer care thing. Does that just ship it off the bat?
So customer care either will input this if it goes to the customer care email, it'll get inputted into here because this is our system of record. This is what Chelsea drives the Chariot with. Why haven't you got that fixed yet, Dan? It's been 3 weeks. She can pull that reports from SeeClickFix. SeeClickFix on the back side, so that's the front side for the public facing side, SeeClickFix. It automatically creates a report and it goes into our asset management work order system called Cartograph. Staff then actions it. Vendors, we're trying to get to the point where our vendors can then action it as well with just a click of a button. Here's the details, please go take care of this, let me know when it's done, give me the pictures, the update when it's over. And then we keep track of assets over the lifespan of that asset. If there's a trend of something keeps breaking, we know that it's probably at the end of the life cycle. It helps us predict our budget a little bit better, and it also helps us just battle track the things that are going on in the day-to-day operations on the field.
And if we did, what's nice is on our side, when we pull up a map, there's little pins everywhere that we've been. So if we see like a bunch of pins in one area, then we know that there's something going on there that we need to check.
It happens. It basically gives us a heat map so
Yep.
that we know where the issues are.
Yep.
And we can filter, we can look at which items to say if it's just a specific type of thing or if it's just random 10 different types of things sitting in an area just clustered. This is feeding into our GIS as well, so we've kind of got 3 different systems all talking to each other, and eventually budgeting will be a part of the system as well, so a 4th system. So you got GIS, just your mapping, tracking where everything's at that we own, that we maintain. Does the district own it? Do they maintain that sidewalk or that roadway? Yes, no. Can I create a ticket for it for SeeClickFix to get worked? And then that goes to the staff to work it through on the Cartograph side, and we maintain and keep the ducks in a row on the backside for asset management. So, any questions on SeeClickFix? So, the district main webpage, dead center right at the very beginning when you pull up the webpage is that emblem right there in the right-hand corner, the SeeClickFix square. Literally copied and pasted it right off the page. So, it's the exact one. General services and inquiries. That's what SeeClickFix should be for, non-emergency. So next slide. Now here's your emergency stuff. So non-emergent items that you want to get taken care of, and then here's all the big items. And this hasn't changed year over year, so this is the same stuff that we publish and is out on the website. The only thing I took off of it was the QRF code that Laura had. So.
Code Red is how we communicate to our utility customers for boil water notices, rescissions of boil water notices. We try to keep it only to those things, but if anything else were to come up, that would be our way to communicate. We've recently implemented a phone SMS.
IVR, yeah. It's part of our utility billing. There's a way we can send communications out using our phone system through the utility billing. So the top two are Lee County, but the bottom is strictly Gateway. So anybody that has Gateway Utilities, if you sign up for Code Red, it'll tell you anything that's going on with our utility system.
So if you take anything away from today, it's to sign up for Code Red.
And we do not send out just willy-nilly stuff. I mean, there's a reason. We'll send out, if there's boil water notice, or if there's, anything that you need to know that would affect your utilities, we'll send out a communication there. We don't just send out like, hey.
Welcome to the pool party.
Yeah.
That's our newsletter. That's coming. That's a new thing that Randy's been working on as well. So you should be getting newsletters if you sign up. The last slide, I believe, is just questions.
That's it.
That's the last one. So
Yeah,
if there's
I'm
any
out of
questions.
arrows. I got no more.
Okay. NOAA is a really good site for going and checking for weather resources. There's a lot of things if you just type in Google for weather alert, just to make sure that you can stay tracking on any storms that are coming our way, and just local news stations. Really helps. So.
Facebook, we share a lot on Facebook. If there's an impending storm, we join the Lee County's Emergency Operations Center, their phone calls, so we get up-to-date information, and we try to disseminate that to our residents through social media. So follow us on Facebook, because that's where we feel like we do a lot of good publication. It's kind of difficult because you have varying age groups here and learning who does what, who joins what. But I think we've gotten pretty good responses with Facebook for sure. Is there any questions for Daniel? I just want to touch a couple other things. We strategically do projects like palm tree trimming or hardwood, the oak tree trimming before hurricane season. I know, Ed, last year you guys here in Gateway Greens did it before hurricane season, and where you did the trimming, it made an impact compared to where you didn't do the trimming. So in your own HOAs, that's something to think about, because winds pick up, storm, that stuff's gonna block the roads, it's gonna cause issues in the storm drains. I mean, just you name it, it could, the ripple effect. So
Especially if it's near like street lights and things like that.
yeah.
Oak trees, boy, those limbs get moving in the wind. Those lights, especially the new lights that are higher, are vulnerable. So we're going to be going out and doing both oaks and palms this year.
Any questions? No?
Carol, anything you got? Bob, any items? I don't have anything.
If nobody has anything,
Appreciate everybody coming out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Both of you.
Thank you.
All three of you.
Both of you.
Three.
Ed, it's after 5 o'clock.
Oh, the bar's open. Ed's member number is?
did you communicated with Nan what was needed?